What's up, everybody? It is Moose, Brian, and Ken here from OccupyFantasy.com at OccupyFantasy on YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, and Twitch. Again, I'm Moose at the bottom right of your screen at CFB_Moose on Twitter. At the top right of your screen, you have Brian at BrianJesterFF on Twitter. How are you tonight, man?
What's up, Moose? Trying to recover from last night's debacle in League of Legends, but fortunately there's another slate tonight, so ready to get back at it.
I would say couldn't get much worse than last night. And and then on the left of your screen here, we have the Swag Lord himself at Swag Lord Ken on Twitter. How are you tonight, man?
I'm good. There's actually a funny story behind Swag Lord. It's actually League of Legends based.
No shit, really?
Yeah. So a couple of years ago, well, in season 3, so this is like 7-8 years ago. There used to be a top laner named Darian, and he would do all like this crazy stuff. He would run around and like drag 4 of the other enemies and put them in like a wild chase, and they would call him Swag Lord Darian. So it's actually inspiration by that League of Legends player. So that's why I named myself Swag Lord Ken. So what's going on?
That is awesome. Yeah, and so we'll be here for about 30 minutes or so, breaking down any questions that you all have. We'll also be talking about the daily plug, which you can check at OccupyFantasy.com. Brian, if you want to go ahead and put the link in the chat as well, or if not, I can. But yeah,
I got you.
Cool. But real quick, I know, Brian, you mentioned last night was very tilting. Do you want to kind of recap what happened last night?
Ken was on his grind yesterday, and there's a reason we hired Ken. He's super sharp and he has the work ethic, and we found one of the biggest edges that we'll find in DFS for some time. T1 was a -500 favorite last night, and because they had some lineup uncertainty and straight up lineup swaps that people were not expecting, but Ken was grinding, found out some reliable information that they were actually going to be starting a different ADC than had been starting the last, I don't know, however many games. And as a result, we got that ADC at like 4% ownership on a -500 favorite. And I was all in on them, played every lineup with T1, because it's not very often you get a -500 favorite where no one plays them. And then they go out and just get freight trained and lose 2-0 and all the edge goes out the window. So that shit happens from time to time, but to be able to find and recognize those edges is unreal.
Yeah, and Ken, I'll bring you in on this, is where we had the T1 players literally at 1% and a -500 favorite. I mean, we'll probably never see that, maybe once a season, but that's just absolutely nuts.
It was hard to watch last night. It was crazy because like they were like the last game on the slate, so everything built up. Kind of if you had T1's lineups, you saw how the other 3 games went. So T1 has to score this much, and then we're looking pretty good, and they come out and they put like 2 stinkers, and it's tilting. They were like, he was like 1% ADC captain, which was like insane. I don't know what to say. I guess it's a good reminder to practice proper allocation and try not to let this bug you too much. But it was tilting for sure.
Yeah, it couldn't have been much worse. I can't think of any other thing that's happened like this in any other sport, but definitely sucks. So we'll jump into tonight's slate. Again, if you all have questions or you just want to say hello, I see we got Nick, Nigel, the FBI in here as well, T Nasty. What's up, everybody? Yeah, so go ahead and comment down below if you have any questions or you just want to chat it up with each other. You can do that as well. Let's jump in. We'll talk about the odds first. And Ken, I'll bring you in here. As of 9:30, you did some line moves here, but we have 2 large favorites and 2 medium-sized favorites. So how does this kind of impact your way of playing?
I started out by saying it's a difficult slate because it's not often we kind of get 4 favorites, decent sized favorites. We don't really have any coin flip matches that we can attack. So I did actually recommend to kind of take it easy tonight because most likely we'll get chalk like every other slate this week. But it's yeah. I mean, a great thing is to attack the large field contest tonight because I think underdogs will actually go like lower owned, like way lower owned than they should be, even on regular slates. So look towards 1,000 entries or even above the big GPP, and like definitely play some of these underdogs because no one will be looking to play them since we can actually fit in favorites quite easily tonight.
Cool. Notam in here. What's up, Notam? He says, if we guys quit Twitch, we're just trying something new here. And if you all like it, definitely give the video a thumbs up to let us know we should keep doing it on YouTube. Or if you want us to go back to Twitch, let us know that as well. Cool. So, Brian, I'll bring you in on this. We talked about two large favorites. It's going to be a lot of chalk. And so how do you get leverage in kind of high-risk contests tonight?
It's tough, man. Like for the contests we normally recommend, the 100-player league, smaller contests like that, generally, so Ken and I talk about every slate, and generally our conversations last 5 to 15 minutes. It's like, oh, this is how the slate works. We can get leverage by doing X, Y, Z. Simple as that. Here's the win conditions for that are the most EV. Tonight, it took us like an hour just to discuss all the different things. And the biggest issue, Moose, is, when we see a slate like this, if you read the Daily Plug before, you know that we love attacking the big LCK favorites because they're normally expensive and people aren't going to play them. They play the LPL favorites instead, or the LPL coin flip matches instead. But tonight, for whatever reason, Gen, despite being a minus 1,000 favorite, is the fourth most expensive favorite. They're the cheapest favorite. And so you can literally fit them in with anyone. And you can ADC captain them with almost every team. You can mid captain them. You can mid captain them with JDG, right?
That's right. Yeah.
Like how often does that happen where you can mid captain? ADC is the best normally. Mid captain is the next lowest. Generally, if we're trying to pair up two of the highest favorite teams, we're looking at like a top or support captain to fit it in. Tonight, that's not the case. It's a mid captain, and it's a big reason why Ken in the Plug says it's such a great low risk night, which is rare. But it makes it really tough for us because the decision point is, what do we do with Gen, who's going to be crazy popular because they are so cheap?
Yeah, it's going to be tough. Ken, do you have any insight on Gen?
Yeah, I agree with Brian. If we recommend 100 player leagues, play the small contest. So I think a major decision point is like what you want to do with Gen, because we've talked it over. If Gen wins, they're way more likely to be an optimal than on other slates, right? So like if Gen wins and we see an upset even with NS or V5, like it's still a very good chance that Gen actually is in optimal lineups and winning lineups. So I think it like you either have to actually go all in on Gen or hope they bust and fade them completely. It's tough. I think all inning on Gen, because that is a move because they are minus 1,000. They are such a large favorite. They'll probably fit into winning lineups if they do in fact win, or hopefully they don't pull a T1 like yesterday. But
they're not playing fucking scrub backups, so they'll probably win. God,
yeah.
T1.
So, I mean, Gen, they probably win. They probably end up in winning lineups. So the move is hope that JDG busts. Like, don't be the guy that plays the Gen mid JDG in high risk contests, because that is just like the worst lineup.
Yeah.
It's a trip to Dupe City.
Yeah, you'll probably get duped 400 times.
Yeah, at least.
At least,
right.
Yeah. So let's jump back down to starting lineups. And there's several people here in red that is marked as potential scratches or mid-series substitutions and should be played only in high-risk contests. Ken, I can bring you back into this one since you're kind of the expert on the starting lineups. Are any of these, I would say, like probable or doubtful, or what's your take on some of these players that are in red?
Yeah, I'll quickly go through all of them. E-Stars mid, Irma, they went to Insulator last series, and they didn't look good with him, so they're going back to Irma. My guess is they would just stick with him. V5's ADC is more of an interesting one. With Trigger, we have seen mid-series substitution with him and Y4, but they did lose 2-0 last series and stuck with that. They played Trigger both games, and now they're starting him again, so I think Trigger is actually good to play tonight. And then LCK is where kind of more the questionable line risk, like with HLE, we've got Morgan and Johan. So Morgan, if you watch his streams, they swap Dudu and Morgan back and forth for like no reason at all. So Morgan, I guess he's sub risk. They did play Morgan both games last series, so we'll know these lineups before lock. So if Morgan does start, I think he's actually all right. Johan, he just played last series. They won 2-0, so I think they start him again, but definitely make sure you want to be around for lineups if you're going to play those guys from HLE tonight. And then the last one, Croco, or Croco, I don't know. They're a plus 700 underdog. You're probably not playing them. They've swapped back and forth with On Fleek. I think they start. We'll call him the Crocodile tonight. But yeah. So there's that. We'll see how it goes. HLE is definitely something you want to be around for lineups though.
Cool. Awesome. And I will say, now that you mentioned his name, that dude for LSB, his name is the Crocodile. I absolutely have to play him. So he's going in my lineup.
He's gonna get 0 when he sits too. When he doesn't start.
Yeah, that's gonna suck. Hashtag high risk. But let's go. Let's jump back down into some ownership tiers. And Brian, maybe you can expand on some of this as well. You know, with highest owned JDG and Jin, obviously, and some low owned NSES and LSB. Kind of, what's your take here? Is this going to be kind of where JDG and Jin are going to be stupid highly owned, and maybe the mid owned people aren't even going to be that mid owned because so much ownership is going to be on these two favorites?
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to figure out. And remember, this is for DraftKings only. FanDuel has different pricing, and Ken at the bottom of the plug does talk about different FanDuel strategies and leverage spots because of the pricing differences. And it actually is a bit different tonight. So I encourage you to read down on the plug if you are playing on FanDuel. But for DraftKings specifically, where the contests are actually worth playing, JDG, big LPL favorite, no matter what, going to get ownership. Right? Mm-hmm. They could be $40,000. People are going to play them. They'll find a way to play them. The fact that Jin is so cheap and you can play him any which way you want, and that you can pair him with JDG, there's been spots before where we've been surprised. Wow, I can't believe that LCK team was this low owned. I don't think that's going to be the spot tonight. We've seen a similar spot before this split where I think it was HLE was the cheapest favorite, and they were a big favorite, and they ended up with a ton of ownership. And I think we're in a similar spot here. So it's really hard to see a situation where these two teams aren't just massively owned in any contest type. Now, the question is, how much do they get? And how much do SN and HLE get? Because they're still minus 250 favorites or so, minus 65 to 75% win probabilities, which is pretty nice. And you get some leverage off JDG and Jin by playing those guys. But really the issue is, because SN and HLE are more expensive than Jin, you can't optimally stack them with JDG. And as we see before, unless a team just completely blows all the other teams out of the water, you need optimal captains, ADC or mids. And so it's like Kim was saying earlier, it's just really tough to find a way that Jin fails. They really have to have 2 low scoring games, and there has to be an upset. It's just so the probability is so small, and I think that Jin won't be as popular as they should be, which is crazy for me to say, to play the chalk like this, but the numbers say that they probably won't be as owned as they should be, given the line of flexibility that they afford you.
Yeah, so it's going to be really interesting tonight in terms of the ownership tiers. I'm really curious how it's going to all end up with. Going back to the bankroll recommendation, I just have to say, Ken, I love your sentence here. I believe LOL should mainly be played high risk. Tonight is not the best high risk night. That's the entire bankroll recommendation. It's
just straightforward.
I love it. Yeah, so talk about low risk, and you see it on screen here. I know we kind of talked about it earlier, but if you kind of want to just reiterate what's talked about in this low risk lineup section.
Sure. Personally, I don't play any low risk myself, but
But tonight
tonight is
it looks so
yeah.
good, Ken. Tonight, doesn't it like tempt you a bit that you want to play it?
No, because I'll find a way to chop in the middle. Like I'm really bad. Like I know what I should be doing. I should be aiming for 40% and not 1%. And I would play low risk in other sports, and I'd be getting unique lineups that would just bust or be really good. But tonight is a great night for low risk. Like we get two -1,000 favorites that we could stack with mid captain. It's just like actually a great night for low risk. My only concern, since I'm not really, I don't play too much low risk, is that like everyone else could run it, and then you just end up getting chopped and you lose like the rake, right? So if you guys have any thoughts on that, like it's a great night from a money line perspective, but maybe a chop, right?
Yeah, I guess the biggest issue is the competition you're playing. Now, if you're playing the 1K, 4-man or something, it would be a shock not to see all four lineups have the same or be the same. Whereas if you can find some head-to-heads or some lower dollar contests that you see some names you don't recognize, make them show you that they know what the optimal lineup should be for this slate, because it's really easy. It's really straightforward, right? Like you can easily fit in the optimal lineup. It's not hard to figure out. But if you're playing against some casual players that don't necessarily know the ropes of League of Legends, make them show you that they can do it and play some low-risk lineups in contests that you can find. Again, there's no edge playing this in big dollar contests or against head-to-heads against people that know what they're doing, because it is so obvious. But if you can find some unsuspecting casuals, then it's worth playing for sure.
I just will say I went on DraftKings and I've looked at the $1 head-to-heads, and literally it's just all one head-to-head by one person. That's the only thing in the lobby right now.
Who is it, by the way?
Connor_Silver.
Do you know him, Ken? I'm not familiar with the name.
No, I haven't seen that guy in League of Legends lobbies or anywhere.
Yeah,
everyone go take his head-to-heads.
Yeah.
And if you go up to the more high dollar ones, it's people you see like Giant Squid or other people like that. So I don't know. It might even be tough to play head-to-heads tonight as well.
What's this guy's name? Connor Silver?
Connor_Silver. CONNOR.
Oh, maybe I spelled his name right. Let me see. I'm just checking to see if he does have a profile on Roto Grinder, so I'm just curious to see here.
Okay.
You're gonna pick the $1 head-to-head up.
guys, just hear me out. Connor, if you're watching this, I'm sorry. If you look on Roto Grinder's rankings, there are 6,975 players ranked for esports. Connor_Silver ranks 6,717th out of 6,900 players.
Wow.
I don't know if he's slow rolling us here and it's a long con, but I feel like we should go scoop those head-to-heads.
Oh, I just reserved it.
There.
I cannot wait to get
there we go.
freight trained.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think I've honestly never seen the ranking that low. I guess it's also sample bias because I'm looking for better players, but he's legit almost last in esports.
Yeah, Notum comes in the chat and says, tonight's more like a low T risk, am I right?
Low T1 risk, yeah.
Yeah. And totally not the FBI says, Brian saying play the chalk is almost as crazy as him saying play your entire bankroll in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, man. It's a weird night, I will say that. Let me see here. I'm just looking at this guy because this is really intriguing to me because I've never heard the name. The fact that he has a bunch of head-to-heads out there. Yeah, I mean, all of his top scores on Roto Grinders are MMA or like NASCAR or some shit. So,
I will say again, they don't really track head-to-heads. Maybe this dude's just gonna get freight train all of us.
Yeah, maybe he's like the best low-risk player of all time, and he just sucks at high risk.
Yeah,
but you know what? There's one way to find out. Go take his head-to-heads.
Yeah, that he's gonna be like, why the hell is everyone take my head-to-heads instantly?
Yeah, yeah. All of a sudden, he gets a bunch of notifications that all of his head-to-heads were scooped at 10:25 p.m.
Yeah. Notum says, "Is this on DK?" Yeah, it is on DK. And FBI says, look me up. Brian, do you even know who this is?
Yeah, it's Athlete Ed.
Oh, hey, Ed. I didn't even know you were there. Great name. Do you know his DraftKings name? We can look him up.
Yeah, I do. Hold on, let me see here. Ed, type in the chat what your DraftKings name is. I'll look you up.
Yeah, cool. And while we're waiting for that, Ken, speaking about your high risk lineups, you cut out ES and LSB, which you say is a difficult slate tonight. If you kind of just want to take me through some of these bullet points you put on, and then we'll go from there.
Sure. I started by cutting out ES and LSB because they're just both like plus 700, and I don't think they'll win tonight. So so that's kind of how you want to decide cuts. If you're playing tonight, it's tough because we cut out the two large underdogs. We don't really want to play the chalk tonight, so that leaves NS and V5. I did put NS as like my a top leverage stack because we've seen that LCK gets lower owned than LPL. So even though they have the same amount of odds, something else that's crazy is that NS game actually has a higher kill total now. For like the second time all year that LCK has a higher kill total than LPL. But it doesn't matter because since one team is in the LPL, they're going to get more ownership. So like V5 is going to be more owned than NS just because how the field thinks. So I mean, I like NS tonight. I think they're a great stack in really any contest type. So small contest, large contest, you can't really go wrong. There's no sub risk. I think NS is a good play. I seem to play them every night because they're like always an underdog and they always are this low owned
Bad
LCK
plays only
team.
for real.
Yeah, right. But the kill total is actually good. Like maybe we'll start bringing them back into consideration.
I mean, this will be the ultimate experiment tonight, right? Like is it the LPL bias or is it the kill total bias driving projections? And we have the exact same kill totals tonight. So I'm curious to see. I think I'm with you, Ken, that we will see the LPL teams get the more ownership.
Cool.
Yeah, I'm curious as well. And for just another point on kill totals, yesterday the DRX series, it was like 24.5, and the first game was like 8 kills, and then second game was like 45 kills. So I mean, like if you want proof that kill totals are anything, and the third game, of course, it was like 22. So right back to projection.
Wow.
But I mean, so just insane if you want. So League of Legends, super high variance. There you go, right?
Yeah. And I was up here looking at Ed's RotoGrinders rankings. He's actually ranked 566 in esports. Way to go, Ed.
Ed is?
Yeah.
Athlete Ed in the mix. Well, you can tell he's an Occupy subscriber, so.
There we go. And of course, in other sports, I mean, he's 2000s in MMA, 1400 in soccer, 1700 in NHL. He's crushing it, man.
A well-balanced player. Do they have rankings for the 333 satellites?
Yeah, he is in last.
Dead last.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Poor Ed.
Yeah. Cool. So, Brian, we have about 5 to 7 minutes left. Is there anything else we haven't covered or anything we should go to next?
I'm just trying to think here, just because I think we've hit a lot of things. I guess so. The alternate approach here is fading Gen completely, and we'll hit FanDuel here in the last couple minutes too. But the alternate approach is fading Gen. You're praying for a low-scoring match. You're praying for an upset. You're praying for two other teams to really crush. Ken, how do you building lineups that way? Like, what else has to happen if you're fading Gen completely because they fit too easily and they'll be popular?
Yeah, looking to fade Gen is really tough. Let's start with the assumption that they're going to win because they're minus 1,000. So how are we? So what do we need for Gen to not be in the winning lineup? Is we need basically NS or V5, the plus 200 underdogs. So one of them really has to win, and then we also need JDG to outscore Gen, and then the winning lineup is a combo of NS or V5 with JDG, and it's hard to see any other scenario. I mean, I guess there's a scenario where like when the plus 700 underdogs win, but that's not very likely. So just if you do the probability and the math, it's really tough to fade Jen tonight. So probably try to go all in or fade if you like the high risk aspect, I guess.
I just want to jump in really quick and say that all of that dude's head to heads have been taken.
Yes, good work, everybody listening. He's probably sitting back, like just rubbing his hands, like, yes, these idiots have no idea what's going on.
Yeah. So cool.
He's gonna play. He's gonna play whoever Jen's opponent is, and Jen's gonna lose, and then and that's how he's the best.
Ridiculous. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's gonna be great.
Slash Jen will just win, and it'll show why he's nearly the last ranked esports player in the world.
Oh gosh, I hope he's not watching tonight.
I hope he is watching. If you are watching, dude, just go to OccupyFantasy.com and subscribe and read Ken's work. You'll improve your rankings immediately. Ken, I did want to pick your brain really quickly before we get out of here about FanDuel because it is so different. Granted, the prize pools are smaller, but I know we have members like Ren in the Discord who's playing some of the high dollar stuff over there and absolutely crushing it. And because it requires a different approach. So if at the very bottom here, you do have some FanDuel notes. So if you want to walk us through that.
Yeah. Really quickly, I do look at FanDuel and see how it's different. Usually, so lately pricing is similar and then the same leverage stacks apply. But for tonight, it's different because Suning, so SN is like, I don't know, like way cheaper than they should be. Like they're cheaper than their opponent V5, even though they're like almost minus 300. So like Suning will be popular because they're so cheap. So we're gonna see actually a lot of them with JDG or Gen. JDG is actually cheaper than Gen, so I actually do like Gen. And keep looking towards the LCK teams. I think that's also a huge thing is where we know there's an LPL bias. And then when, like on FanDuel, where people are, way more, have way more biases, we actually do see a huge ownership edge there as well, and maybe even bigger than DraftKings with the LCK. So definitely HLE, NS, and even Gen tonight on FanDuel.
Yeah. And Ed says, Ren can retire off his FanDuel wins over the last few months. Yeah, he's been absolutely crushing it over there.
Been raking it.
Yeah, been crushing it.
Ren is Ren's crushing it. I saw we've got the 555 tomorrow, so he's got an entry in there. So
on DraftKings.
Yeah, on DraftKings. So that contest is tomorrow. I think Ren's in there, so hopefully he can take something down. Also the $20. I'm sure I've seen some Occupy Fantasy members actually reserve seats in the $20 entry as well. So that was awesome. And just one more funny story about satellites yesterday, where we saw T1's ADC was like 3 or 4%, and in the League of Legends satellite, the ADC was like 10%, and it was basically all of our members. So that was awesome to see.
That is crazy.
It was crazy, but so that was awesome.
That was pretty sick because the 333 I'm in, I think maybe there's one Occupy member in there. I'm not even sure if that's the case. So yeah, super low ownership. But then in the contest that we, for lack of better words, occupy, you always see the plug plays in there, and that's amazing to see, like triple the ownership of the low owned guy because of that.
Yeah, definitely. Cool. So again, Brian and Ken, I appreciate you all coming on board for the League of Legends stream. I appreciate everyone here watching. If you liked the video, definitely go ahead and give it a thumbs up. It definitely helps us out. If you're not subscribed, hit the subscribe button and hit the bell notification to be notified of when we go live. Until next time, Moose, Brian, and Kent from Occupy Fantasy, have a good night.
Good luck.